Good morning, third grade. We're going to get started with chapter 12, and we're going to be studying geometry. Now, geometry is a Latin word, and it's made up of two Latin roots, ge and metri, or meter. Now, we've heard meter a lot, like decimeter, centimeter, thermometer, and we know, we've talked about this, that meter means to measure. So measure what? Well, G means earth. And we are talking about shapes on earth. And when we're talking about geometry, we're talking about measuring shapes on earth. Now, we are going to be talking about measuring flat shapes, two-dimensional shapes. You may have heard of three-dimensional and two-dimensional. Well, three-dimensional shapes are things like this ball. It's round. Or this box. It's got three dimensions. This picture has two dimensions. Now, how do we decide how many dimensions? Well, we've got a length and a width. Two measures, two dimensions. So, I pick up my box of books. This box has three measures. It has a length and it has a width, but it also has a height. And we could find the volume of this shape by measuring those three measurements. Three measurements, three-dimensional. But we're going to be working with two measurements, length and width, two-dimensional shapes. Two-dimensional shapes, we can find the area or the perimeter. Here we can find volume in a three-dimensional shape. Here we find area or perimeter. Let's go ahead and get started with our lesson. We're on page 697. So the essential question is, what are some ways to describe two-dimensional shapes? An architect draws plans for houses, stores, offices, and other buildings. Schools, too. Look at the shapes in the drawing at the right. A plane shape is a shape on a flat surface. It is formed by points that make curved paths, line segments, or both. Now, these are flat figures, so like a piece of paper would be a plane shape. And when we're talking about a plane, we're talking about the flatness of something, how it goes on and on. So we could extend this on and on. Along the way, we're going to have some different terms that we'll be using in geometry, and it's really important that you use the correct terms. So a point is an exact position or location. That is point. And we would name that like point A or point B. It's an exact location on that line, right in the middle. Over here we have endpoints. Points that are used to show segments of lines. That's not a line. That's not a line. That's a line. Do you see a difference? This has definite endpoints. It's called a line segment. A segment is a part of a line. So here we have endpoints.
Endpoints.
Well, now we have a line up here. And a line is a straight path just like this, except that we have arrows on the ends to show that we can extend that line on and on. That line continues in both directions and it does not end. Well, what about this? We have an endpoint and an arrow. That's called a ray. Think about the sun as the endpoint. Great big old sun over here. And this ray comes down and it travels millions of miles and beyond to infinity. That arrow shows that it keeps going on and on. So a ray is straight. It is part of a line. Okay, this is a line. It goes in both directions. This only goes in one direction. So it's part of a line, so it has one endpoint and one other end continues in one direction. Up here we have our line, straight path continuing in both directions. It never ends. Line segments. So here they're going to tell us a little bit more about a line segment. It is straight. It is part of a line, and it has two endpoints. So those are some things that you'll need to remember, and you can come back to this page to check whenever you need to. Now let's take a look here. Some plane shapes are made by connecting line segments at their endpoints. One example is a square. Do you see how we connected this endpoint to this endpoint, and this endpoint to this endpoint, and all the way until we came back to the beginning? A square has how many line segments? 1, 2, 3, 4 line segments. The line segments meet only at their, well, we could call that corners. We could call that their endpoints. The real name for that is at their vertex or vertices, but we're going to call them endpoints. Okay, let's go on to the next page, 698. Plane shapes have length and width, but no thickness or height. So they are also called two-dimensional shapes. Remember, we only have two measures, length and width. It says, try this. Plane shapes can be open or closed. Closed shapes, this is a closed shape that starts and ends at the same point. So we start up here maybe, and we come down, and then we go around, and we stop at the same place we started. Okay? Triangle, we start here, we go down, follow, and oh, that's an open shape. I have to make sure that I close that, and my pen is a little bit off. I need to calibrate. Now it's a closed shape. You know it as a triangle. In the space below, draw some more examples of closed shapes. I've seen, oh, that's not closed. Got to close it. There we go. My pen doesn't want to work very well today. So that's a closed shape too. Now here are some open shapes. An open shape does not start and end at the same point. So you see it doesn't connect. So another one might be something like this. Okay. Now, look at the question at the bottom. Here's the shape that I drew up here, only it's much better here. Is the plane shape at the right a closed shape or an open shape? I'm going to say it's closed, but it says explain how you know. How do I know? All the endpoints connect to each other. It's connected all the way around. There are no open spaces. So Let's take a look at the next page where we'll practice a few things. 699. Whoops. Okay. Write how many line segments the shape has. I see 1, 2, 3. 3 line segments. Now circle all the words that describe the shape. Well, there's a point there, but it's connected to this line that has an arrow. That's a ray. Remember, if you've forgotten, go back to that first page, 697, and it tells you what all of these are. Number 3, is that an open shape or a closed shape? That's pretty easy. We're going to circle closed shape. Number 4, open. Number 5, now is this a line or a line segment? Remember, a line goes on. So to show that it goes on and on, we use arrows at the ends. But a line segment is just a part, a piece of that line. And it has endpoints. It has an ending and another ending. So this is a line segment. Now, is it opened or closed? Well, that looks open to me. That's closed. That's closed. Ooh, they forgot to close that one, so that one's open. Now, write how many line segments the shape has. Let's count them. It's important that you start somewhere with a little mark. So I'm going to start here, and then I want to come back to that starting point. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. That was made up of 4 line segments. Let's try this one. I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's try this one. Let's start in this corner, up here. 1, 2, 3, back to where we started, 4. And this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should be connected. Now, is this open or closed? Well, you can see that's closed. Open, closed, closed. We're going to go right to our assignment now. I think this is kind of a fun chapter. So let's take a look on page 701. I'm going to just read the directions with you. It says, write how many line segments the shape has. They did this one for us. You do number 2 on your own. Number 3 and 4, you tell whether the shape is open or closed. That is not a yes or no question. You need to write that it's opened or closed. Open, closed. You choose one of these words to describe. Number 5, Carl wants to show a closed shape in his drawing. Show and explain how to make the drawing a closed shape. So I want you to close this shape up and then tell me, what did you do to close the shape? Number 6, the shape of a fish pond at a park is shown below. Is the shape open or closed? That is not a yes or no. That is it open? Write open. If it's closed, write closed. Number 7 says, draw an open shape and a closed shape and label them. I think you can do that. That's pretty easy. Now we're going to go on to the next page, 702. Where it says at the top of the page, How many line segments does this shape have? Remember to start, make a little mark where you're going to start and count until you go all the way around and connect. Number 2, what is part of a line, has one endpoint, and continues in one direction? Okay, there's 3 clues there. It's part of a line, but it has one endpoint, and it continues in one direction. What is the name of that? Number 3, we have an array, and we need to write a multiplication sentence to show what this array is telling us. So we're going to count the numbers of columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the number of rows, and we're going to multiply. You write out the multiplication problem with the answer. Number 4, what's the unknown factor and quotient? Oh, 9 times what would give us 27? 27 divided by 9 gives us the same number. What is the missing number? Number 5, what fraction is equivalent to 4/8? 4 out of 8. We've got 8 segments. You're going to color 4 of them, and then you're going to see that that is the same as what other fraction? Number 6, Mr. McTavish has 30 students from his class going on a field trip to the zoo. He puts 6 students in each group. How many groups of students will he make? So he's got 30 students. We could draw 30 students and then just start putting them in groups of 6 and then find out how many groups we have. Or we could divide. Okay, go ahead and get started. When you're finished, send me a picture.